Hey, Katie. Oh my God. Are we really doing this?
We are. Welcome to Higher Downloads, where two moms, entrepreneurs, and spiritual seekers are getting real about doing our best to live life in alignment.
Yeah, and by getting real, we mean the raw, unfiltered voice memo version of ourselves.
And you know what we're really obsessed with lately: higher
hmm
downloads.
You know that moment when clarity arrives seemingly from nowhere? That's it. That's the higher download from your highest self.
Exactly, because we know everyone has the ability to access their own higher downloads. So nothing is off limits here. Everything in the wheel of life, from career, spirituality, motherhood, relationships.
Yep, everything. And really through the lens of higher consciousness and joy. And we have to share our higher downloads too, right? So grab your coffee
Or your crystals, or whatever you need to have fun with us.
and get ready to tune in to your own wisdom channel because receiving higher downloads means you can live your life in HD.
Higher Downloads starts now. Welcome back to Higher Downloads. And
Hello.
Katie, welcome back from the happiest place on earth.
I was at the happiest place on earth. And I was really happy to be there because it felt like the world was like melting down when I was there and I was just in the happiest place on earth bubble.
Isn't that so funny? You were in your own little happy place on earth portal, weren't you? Where the rest of us were out here living in chaos.
Like legit. And then I like kind of returned to the real world or getting on the plane and or I don't know if it's the real world, but this world. And I'm like, kind of catching up on social media and messages. You sent me one. So how are you feeling about it? I'm like, wait, what? People hate
Yeah.
Disney right now? Like, what?
So, we're going to talk about we choose our own reality and the different realities that can exist and all the things that go along with that.
Which is such a big, powerful, and tough topic to kind of dive into right now because the state of things in the world and for sure in the United States, no matter where you stand politically or socially, like there's no denying things just feel really heavy, strained, intense, fast velocity of things, right?
Well, is that true? Is that
Well,
true
th-
for the person like living off the grid in the mountains, blissfully unaware? Are they feeling that? I don't know.
well, that's what this episode's about.
It is, it is. So there's a lot going on in our world. That's true, especially if you're paying attention. And I think that is a really interesting dynamic that we want to talk more about here is you get to choose what you're opting into paying attention to, and you can choose not to. And I have also seen that as things have escalated and gotten pretty wild out there, every day is a new headline with 10 new headlines. And
10.
I have seen a higher propensity of people that are just saying, I'm just not going to pay attention. And that's an interesting dynamic in itself, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly of choosing to pay attention, choosing not to pay attention. And like, what's reality in that case?
Yeah, we didn't prepare this. So like I'm just want to be really clear too that like some people don't have the privilege to not pay attention if they're like in a war zone, right? Their physical safety relies on it. So I just had this little moment where I was like, ugh, that felt like sticky for me and I wanted to acknowledge that piece.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's quite a privilege to choose not to pay attention to what else is happening in the world.
hmm and still I guess what matters is like what we'll be talking about is where your attention goes, energy flows, and what we give attention to gets bigger, even if it's resistance. We've talked about this in other episodes. And I think that's what was so funny about me coming back from Disney World and sending you all these voice memos and you're like in a different reality for you and then I'm having these moments of processing really fun trip. But what was so I think I this is what I had shared with you directly, so I'll share with everyone is I had this moment where we're on the Ratatouille ride. And you know that movie, right? With the little rat and he helps cook. So in the ride, you're made to feel so tiny. You're made to feel like a rat and you're running through the kitchen and there's smells piped in and like all the jerkiness of the ride, you feel like you're like running like a little rat. And if you allow it, you believe for those 5 minutes that you're a rat. Like Disney does such an incredible job. Their Imagineers, their engineers, they like do such an incredible job of making you for 5 minutes literally feel like you're a rat. And then you park hop, you go somewhere else, and then like within the hour, I'm on Space Mountain.
You're in a whole
And
nother world.
you're literally like we actually went, Ratatouille's in Epcot, Space Mountains, Magic Kingdom, but like you're in a different Disney World, but then you're on a Disney ride where I'm an astronaut and I believe it and I'm in the stars.
And
And
it's so funny because it's like you choose your own reality. You're literally going to Disney to go choose your own reality in each and every ride, right?
yes, and I think now, the last time I was there was in 1997. I was young and it's a whole thing. But now as an evolved, awakened, spiritual on a spiritual path as a mom and like also enjoying the magic through my son's eyes. I mean, with another family, it was really fun. But like to step back and look at that manufactured nature of the experience and then also sometimes choosing on the ride to feel I want to feel like an astronaut for 5 minutes, like give me that joy, which it's been so cool to unpack and process that.
Yeah, that's so fun. That's so fun to a vacation, to completely separate from day to day schedules and
Mhm.
everything, and then to be in a place that has such wild, dynamic creativity, very intentional about like what they're trying to curate for you. So that's so fun. Okay, so we're going to talk about collective consciousness, choosing our own reality, what's happening in the world today. We're going to get really talk about some of that stuff too. So for context though, to lay it out for me, this conversation, there's two sides of it, right? There's
Mhm.
the spiritual or energetic viewpoint of like we choose our own reality, maybe we're living in a simulation, whatever that is, right? And then
Yeah.
we're over here also talking about collective consciousness, that we're all not choosing our own video game all day every day, that we are interrelated with each other in the world, and that there's more collective energies going on. So I think we'll bounce around a bit in the you choose your own intimate reality, and then there's what's going on in the collective consciousness that's coming out in the news and internationally, domestically, all the things. So to make sure we're crystal clear, you were at Disney the week that Charlie Kirk was killed, and then Jimmy Kimmel made a comment, a joke, whatever you want to call it, in his
Mhm.
monologue, got threatened to be fired or was fired, and then everyone is boycotting Disney and
Yep.
or
Yep. Yep.
talking about boycotting Disney and canceling their Disney subscription, all while you're there at Disney, living the Disney
A
dream. So
blissful life of eating food in different countries at Epcot and like seeing the fireworks at Magic Kingdom. Blissfully unaware.
totally. And I think that was like a perfect example of what a contrast, right? And that's when I sent you the message, and I was really glad because it was towards the end of your trip. And I was like, I just really hope that she's not even paying attention to this and like not aware that there's this whole boycott thing, like while you're actively posting pictures at Disney. 'Cause I was like, it's like, this is not relevant. You should get to enjoy your fun. So I was glad that it didn't, have much impact on your experience.
Yeah, me too. And I came back and I was like, free speech is something I want to pay attention to. This is a topic I need to care about.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So I'm glad that it didn't steal that joy and I got to be immersed. And yet, when I came back, I was aware of what reality I wanted to choose.
Totally. Makes sense. Okay. Well, let's talk about the collective energy shifts. It's been a while since we've really talked about current events or, political stuff that's going on. And how are you feeling? How are you doing with it all?
You know, we promise to be honest with our community. And so that's the only way I can answer, which is it sometimes depends. And that's not how I want it to be. So I'm working actively that what's happening externally doesn't change my internal anchor. But yeah, there are news stories, there are things that still are inflammatory and hard to work through. And it's, another school shooting that makes dropping my son off at school a lot harder. I can't ignore those realities. And yet still, I think you and I have talked about this. It's like in the velocity, the speed at which things are changing, like you can just feel it. That's what I was saying at the beginning. Like even if you like there's a lot happening. I feel like I need a touchstone. And that's, a big thing that I would love to talk with our community about is like recognizing the different frequencies, recognizing what you tune into, recognizing if it feels aligned or not. And if it's not aligned, then like what can you do about it and how do you choose your reality? And I don't know, the Disney metaphor, I mean, my experience, and then it as a metaphor is actually a helpful frame now for me.
Mm.
About like what to choose to tune into and then how I let it affect me. How are
Yeah.
you feeling? That was probably a lot longer than you expected I would answer, but hey, it's me.
No, I think it's great. The touchstone part really stood out for me because yeah, it is. I think at the beginning when you started and you said that it's hit or miss, right? It depends on the day or the hour, and I would say I agree. Like I would say I oscillate between just feeling shocked, appalled, concerned. Oh, I need to go. It needs to activate my activism. I need to do something. And then I also oscillate to the other side of it where I say, I know that humanity ultimately will win and love will win and peace will win and that the goodness is what the masses have where like these headlines or these people in power and fighting for power are not going to ultimately win. Not in a I even think about the United States and like I am an American, but and I know we're problematic, but I also know that we are the energy of like don't tell us what to do. We are the energy of freedom. We are the energy of expansion. So like I know I have so much confidence that our country is not just kind of going down the toilet, but at the same time I have to oscillate between like oh my god the train wreck and you know everything's going to be fine and having the faith. I think it's the faith.
Mhm.
And I think without that, I can see how if people don't have the faith and aren't rooted in their knowing about what's happening in the future in humanity and trust in that, I could see how you could get lost kind of in the stress and anxiety and panic or maybe you're on the other side where you're caught up in the anger and control and defensiveness and whatever that is.
Mm, mm, mhm.
Yeah.
And I've been there. Like, and I'm glad I have because that helps me contrast how I want to feel with this idea of a touchstone. But I mean, I have been up in arms, and I think that there's important moments of organizing and showing children that speaking out matters and your voice matters. And yet there are times where like it's not healthy to not be able to sleep at night. It's not healthy to carry anger and resentment and fear in the bucket loads of which many Americans are doing right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot going on, right? I think even the example of like to talk about Charlie Clerk specifically, one thing that I shared with you that I, had to catch you up on after you got back was just like when Black Lives Matter was going on, just like when Me Too was going on, any of these kind of big things where a lot of people are paying attention and chiming in,
Hmm.
social media, right?
Yeah.
Um, there becomes this tension of like there's polarizing opinions and people are sharing things that for me make me want to recoil and say oh my goodness I'm who are you and why are you saying that like what
Right.
is this saying about you. And anyway I was feeling that and I also then pretty quickly thereafter found some perspectives that helped me feel peace, right? And I had shared that on social media, like reposted a story what I felt very vulnerable saying, like, I'm a little appalled at how many people are, celebrating his life, right? Not to say that we should celebrate his death, but like talking about how much you're going to miss him and things like that. And I was kind of appalled that so many people in my personal circle would have been doing that. And
Mhm.
anyway, I shared something of the like, and I was flooded with responses back.
Yeah.
DMs, direct messages, not just hearts on the story, but like flooded with
Actual
responses,
conversations. Yep.
confirmations, actual conversations. And then I realized, oh, I'm not alone. Everyone, not everyone, a lot of other people are feeling the same sentiment. And it just reminded me that in these moments when you're kind of looking out, casting judgment, everyone is having weird feelings and everyone's having different reactions. And we're all humans at the end of the day. So I don't know, the Charlie Kirk dynamic really showed me a lot, and it's kind of been building up my bank of trust in the headlines. If you're just listening to the headlines, like everyone's not bad. Like that's not
Oh
where we
my
are.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And maybe, so my touchstone is what you like, basically what you said. Love always wins. The idea of the most humane thing will ultimately win. And hey, look, I was reminded about that at Disney. I actually sent you a voice memo, remember? I was like, I want to take everybody who's an extremist on the left and the right, and we're going to go to Disney World, and we're going to relive the Lion King story about Scar, and we're going to relive Pocahontas. Have people seen Pocahontas? Do they know the song The Colors of the Wind? Like, can we get back to these like moral ground things that but then when I think about that, I'm like, I know the majority of people want that, but what most people are tuned in or what's fed to us are these extreme. I think I think they're actually minor or in the minority, but they're loud,
Very
extreme
loud.
loud, very very extremes of the spectrum, and they're loud loud loud, and so we mistake that for reality.
1000%. Because that was my initial reaction when people were sharing, like, oh, rest in peace, you'll be missed, you had such an impact on the world. I had that moment of, oh my God, do you align with everything? Like, you align with
Everything he
everything you said.
said. Yeah.
You align with that enough to share it. And then I had to really walk back and realize, no, that's literally not true. I don't feel there's no one out there like that. Um, and it helped to ease my pain, but I also have to be honest. I'm going to share a hot take.
Mhm.
My hot take was, I mean, I grew up in East Texas where Bible Belt, I was baptism, Baptist religion was shoved down my throat all through my middle school and high school years. And what I really saw in those messages and felt energetically from people when they were sharing like sentiment about him was that what they liked about him was his ability to be very vocal about his faith. And I do think that a lot of people in today's society feel a little shame about being vocal about their Christianity or their strong religious beliefs because it's such a hot topic for
Mhm.
it seems yeah, it just feels like a really sticky topic in today's culture. And I was like, that was that energetic message I got after was, oh, you just really looked up to him because he was so vocal and proud of his Christianity. And that's what you want. And that's the way mirrors work.
That is how mirrors work, which we've talked about before. I hear you on that, and I could see that playing out too. You talked about your surprise around it, and when I got around to it, what I was surprised by, or back to the extremes, was like there was this like veneration of him, and then there was this celebration of his death. And I couldn't get behind either. I don't believe in the celebration of anyone. Oh, well, I celebrate life, but I don't think like celebrating that a person died, especially in the way he did, which was so painful and traumatic and not I, gun violence is a very strong feeling about gun violence. Like, but celebrating that he died, that's awful, you know? And then the veneration of like he stood for some pretty hurtful things to a lot of forms of community and had really strong things that were anti a lot of groups. That was the opposite of love, the opposite of the way I was understood about Christ and love. And so I was confused by the veneration as well. Like these blanketed extremes was confusing for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Specifically, the without the caveat, right? Like I might say, I really like Michael Jackson's music, but we all know that he was kind of problematic and like, it feels weird. And like, I'm like, I didn't see any caveats like that. Not like, oh, I really, rest in peace. But also, he said some kind of bad stuff, like not kind of, really bad stuff.
Hmm.
And that to me was where I don't feel like I feel resolved on that, but it's hard for me to wrap my mind around this kind of blanket acceptance of people just because they're Christian or just because they're adamant about their faith and then not holding them accountable to the other things that they say or do that aren't reflective of that.
Yeah, so essentially what I think we're getting to, and now I'm in real time processing, is media and today's diet that we're fed, the roller coaster that most media and the political regime wants us to be on are extremes and to other each other. Like
Mm-hmm.
they are bad and we are good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the roller coaster ride they want us to believe. Because when we do believe that, we feel in our bodies fear. And when you feel in your body fear, you are easier to control.
Absolutely. And when you're in fear, you're literally, your nervous system is in fight or flight, and you literally cannot be creative, cannot hold and love and care for other people. Like you have to care for yourself when you're in fear because you're now in defensive mode, right? You have to run from the tiger. You can't take care of others. It's it's something we have to choose for ourselves not to get baited into.
Yeah, it becomes an all or nothing mentality because it's like, well, if I'm going to survive, they can't.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like that's where we're starting to realize that a lot of current events, not just the one we just talked about, but even Jimmy Kimmel, right? It was like, well, if you loved Charlie Kirk, then you have to hate Jimmy Kimmel. Like, wasn't that weird? Like, I saw that and I was like, wait, what? Wait, I'm so confused. Like, he's a comedian. I don't know. It was very confusing of like, what is being expected of people to subscribe to.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's the what are people subscribing to maybe without doing a lot of their own processing about it, their own thinking about it, making their own opinion about it. And that's what we were kind of talking about at the beginning is the choosing your own reality, right? We all know that the algorithm is completely serving you what you are kind of asking for. We know if you spend 2 seconds on a puppy video, you're going to get another puppy video. And then if you spend, 5 seconds on, shopping for a bikini, you're going to get served bikini ads. So like we know how it works, but we have to be conscious and make the choice about what we're spending our time on. Otherwise, we get sucked into this loop of the same thing. And
Hmm.
maybe that's the same opinions, right? Maybe you're following outlets that are re-showing only bad videos of Charlie Kirk, and then
Right.
other people are only seeing good videos of Charlie Kirk, right? Or maybe you're only seeing people that are like, yeah, Jimmy Kimmel does deserve to be fired. And then on the other side, everyone's only seeing videos of this is fascism and authoritarianism and we're the next North Korea, right? Like it's really important that we are recognizing that all of that exists out there. You can choose to go in any of these worlds, or you can choose to kind of like go out in Disney and then choose your ride after that, right?
Yeah, I think maybe that's it. Instead of like what we kind of were talking about earlier, like ignore it all. I think we're not like into like spiritual bypassing or like ignoring everything that's going on in the world. But I think it's this like take a step back, look at a micro level and realize it is a ride instead of it is reality.
It is. And you get to
Maybe that's the
choose.
nuance we're trying to talk about. You get to choose. Are you going to go on Space Mountain or Ratatouille? And like,
Yeah.
what are the consequences of that? It's so interesting because I teach team dynamics and I do leadership work and we learned about all these in my PhD program we're learning about all these psychological things like confirmation bias and groupthink and how it happens in dynamics interpersonally, but with the evolution, very fast evolution of technology, we're able to see confirmation bias and groupthink at a scale that we just haven't experienced yet, and I think that's what we're starting to see the effects of everybody just getting into these like extremist camps.
Yes. And like we see these in those news cycles, like they explode so fast and then they die down. Like also the that comes to mind is this whole Gen Z takeover in Nepal.
Like, are people paying attention to that? I sent you that news story and I'm like,
I
how is
had
this
seen some
not?
of it. Yeah, I had. Not a
No,
lot.
I'm not, I'm just saying, like, to the world, I'm like, are people seeing what's happening? Like, what a beautiful story to tune
Yeah.
into, you know?
Yeah. Well, tell me like what tell me your headline on like what that story represented for you.
It represents for me what we said earlier, that like we all have a threshold of humanity. Like, you have a family and friends that you care about, and ultimately you don't want them to get hurt. And I think that's what's happening on the extreme sides, is like there's just a fear that the other group is going to hurt your family and friends.
Hmm.
But what I think I saw in Nepal by the Gen Zers was like they hit their threshold of like, no, that's not the place we want to live in. The people who have positional authority right now are not making choices that are aligned with like what's really going to all keep us all safe. And so and by the way, they did try it peacefully. The government rebutted violently. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, which we're also seeing some other
Yeah, I mean, we've
patterns.
seen that pattern all throughout history
Yeah.
where, and a couple of stats that I saw was that I think it's like 45% of Nepal is Gen Z. So like they have a very young generation. And then there was something about shutting down social media or controlling it. And it was like the uproar of that. And then they very quickly all, were burning down buildings and stuff, but like taking TikTok videos in front of it, like doing it with big smiles. And I'm like, that is the energy of power. And like, no way, I won't stand for this. Like, kind of, and then going and voting in somebody else who was the first woman, which
First
is
woman.
cool, and who has a history of trying to overthrow corruption and stuff. So I was like, the energy of that is like, yes, please bring some of that over here. And I think it is here. We just have a much bigger country.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so it's going to have to be a lot wider.
Yes. I also, while you were talking, think it's important for us to share a little bit about what we understand as the astrological context, because you said something earlier. I don't remember your exact words, but it was basically like, well, if you understand what's going on, it's like, well, what's happening cosmically that could be amplifying everything, Katie?
Well, I mean, the big one would be the change into age of Aquarius. So we know we talked about this in our astrology episode, and we've referenced it a few different times, but Pluto going into Aquarius is mixing up everything, right? But then we're going from an old paradigm into an Aquarius paradigm, and the themes of Aquarius are power structures being decentralized, right? Humanitarian consciousness. The energy of that is technological innovation, which we know. Like if you
Mhm.
just line these things up as themes and you take off the Aquarius thing because maybe you're like weirded out by astrology and you just aren't willing to talk about that. If I just said the future of our civilization is headed in the direction of technological innovation, humanitarian consciousness, decentralization of power, and collective awakening, I mean, that is what I see
100%.
everywhere around me. So, FYI, astrologically, that also is from the themes of Aquarius. So,
Yep.
that is what that is the framework that I'm aware of. And yes, I am seeing that in my everyday.
Yeah, so if you're paying attention astrologically, it was predicted or said that this is the time when lots of things crumble. And in fact, the last time we were in this type of age of Aquarius was like, oh God, I'm gonna botch it. Was it the French Revolution? There was a big one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
The last time we were in a similar cosmic pattern. And so basically it's like the old structures and ways of doing things are crumbling. And a new way of consciousness, the new way of technological is gonna evolve. And so if you kind of float there, then you're like, oh, that makes sense. You don't have to agree with it or even like certain things that are crumbling, but you're like, oh, a lot of things are being challenged right now.
Absolutely. And the tie-in for me and where my hopefulness comes in is the collective awakening and the humanitarian consciousness, right? I think we have seen over the last 250 years of the America, patriarchal, take it for yourself all the time, capitalism, that mentality. I get it. It had its run its course, but like we're seeing now that, money isn't real. We talk about that all the time. Money isn't real. We are waking up. I know people around me are waking up. That is for sure. And it's just if you go through that lens and say, this, I know this is the future of humanity. The future of humanity is not for more and more and more suffering and more fighting. I know that to be true.
Yep.
And one thing that I think is really cool is if you need any evidence of this kind of thing, and like I know a lot of people that have Christianity just have faith, right? That's like indoctrinated in that belief system. But I know a lot of people don't have that same indoctrination. And so my one of my favorite people, Joe Dispenza,
Mm-hmm.
he does, I'm sure you've heard of this. He does
Yeah.
these events where he gets people together and they measure the frequency of the room and
So
they
cool.
all meditate together and they actually physically change it. And we're starting to see more and more scientific evidence like that to say, like, when you get people together and they share in the energy of love, it really has actual physical, tangible results. And I even think about people do, mass prayers and even mass meditations. And it's like those things do work. And if we can all get our collective consciousness in the right direction of what we want for ourselves, I have faith that the energies are aligned to help support that.
It's so cool you say that. I'd recently read something about the Global Coherence Project where they got like, I don't know, 7,000 or something meditators together. And when they meditated together on the idea of peace and love, then they analyzed the newspaper headlines after it. It showed a decrease of like 30% in international conflicts.
Oh, that's cool.
And there's like a saying is like never underestimate the power of a small group. Like, or, oh, what is that saying? I'm just botching it. Never underestimate the power of a small intentional, I don't know. Gosh, why do we do this? We're like, this great quote that is only halfway done. We're like famous for this.
I'm actually not prepared to cite this out loud. Okay.
But I'm
Yeah.
very inspired by it.
Yeah, there is a lot going on, and I think this can go for anything, even if we're not talking about like macro worldview stuff, like even in your own world, it's a really good tool and exercise to use of, am I caught up as the character in the movie or am I outside observing the movie? And which scene am I choosing right now? What is my experience going to be? And you have the choice to decide, what you want your next step to look like.
Yeah, so I think, okay, it's Margaret Mead. Never underestimate the power of a few committed people to change the world.
Love that.
Okay.
Love,
Okay.
love, love. Nailed it.
Needed to
I'm
come
so
in
glad you
strong
looked
with
that
that
up.
one. Needed to come in strong with that one.
That was worth it.
Yeah. It was a cliffhanger on purpose. Yeah. Okay. And so what we're seeing people wake up to, and what you and I'll just say I want and you want, is universal human values that transcend political beliefs. We don't like, I'm starting to see that the division is manufactured.
Yeah, and the outcome would be manufactured for power, right? It's like you say this power over versus good for
Power.
all. Yeah.
Power over versus power to. Power over the people versus power to the people. Yeah. Um, Yeah, and then once you start to unravel it, you can't unsee it. You
Hmm.
can't unsee the decisions that are made for money or power, in prestige. It's so interesting. And if you can't see it in the real world, just like put on any like watch the movie Success, the TV show Succession. Like watch a TV show, like, and you're like, oh, they're just mirroring the what we see in the
Yeah.
world right now.
Oh, totally. Commentary on that. Well, okay, there's people out there. We have some friends that struggle with this where the watching it just gets them so triggered that they just feel like they have to run away, right? They get so caught up, then they get to a point where they're like, I have to just get off of social media. So I have some thoughts that I think that that's great. Trigger yourself, right? And then, yeah, if you need to take a break, take a break. But what that's really just telling you is that you don't feel safe,
Yep.
that you don't feel in, that you're not actually, your nervous system isn't regulated the way it needs to be, right?
Mhm.
Is that an experience that you've had where you've had to do that now or at any point?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had that experience and I'm in a stronger place because of it. So I don't want to if you need to be off social media because it's just the velocity and the things are too much, like I hear you. I had to do that for about 4 months after the 20 what year was it? 2024 election. I was really I couldn't believe that he was voted back in, to be honest. It was really painful for me and I had to do some things. But what I did with that time is what I'm very proud of. It wasn't just like I can't look at it, I can't acknowledge what's happening, I can't acknowledge he's about to get inaugurated. What I did with that time was go very deep, and I worked with a therapist, you know this, but I'm sharing it with the community on why was I so triggered and how could I, for the next 4 years at least, feel safe in my own body. And I did some really, really deep work, and it uncovered a lot of shadows. And now that I've been able to do that, I'm back on social media. I can read the news, and it doesn't mean that I'm not upset or angry or frustrated, but it's that that doesn't seep into my body and change the alchemy of who I am. I make a real
Mm.
serious choice point because of that.
I
And
got
it
the
goes.
visual of it not, you're not absorbing it.
We've talked about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not seeping in. Yeah, which allows me to then make a conscious choice of how do I want to react to this or respond to this, if at all.
Absolutely. And is there something I want to do about it? Is there an impact that I want to make in the world that is related to this or maybe motivated by this? It doesn't have to be, right. You can't do. I love, was it Glennon Doyle that talked about the boat?
Oh, God, Glennon Doyle. Glennon, we love you.
I know. We
Yes.
love you so much, Glennon. But I'll do a very short synopsis of this, but like it was you got to get the people on the canoe on the boat with you and focus on one boat. You can't be in all the boats at once. But the thing is you also can't stay ashore. And the boat being what's your
What's the
initiative
cause?
or
Or,
what's your
yeah,
cause, what's your thing you want to give back to. And people talked a lot about this over the last few months with the different people coming together to riot or to not to riot but to protest and riot. Of you can't do everything all at once, and I think that's my ultimate call and invitation to people is, look, you got to heal, you got to find your safety, you got to find your peace. You cannot serve anyone if you do not take care of yourself. But the final destination is not to sit in that place and feel I'm above politics or I'm above the stress in the world, right? Like, no, we're all in the collective consciousness together. We're all in humanity together, and it's really important that we connect with that humanity and not stay detached from it. So my call is, if you're in that place, take it. I respect that. I've been there. I get it. But then come join a boat. Come step on a boat with your people, with your team. Find something you care about. And your call and your soul and your purpose in humanity is to make a difference in the world,
it
however
is.
small or hidden or loud it is.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a political thing. Like if you care about community gardens, I have a friend who cares about gardens and there being like food scarcity is a thing, right? And so she tunes into how to stay informed with like healthy food and community gardens without getting consumed by all the world events. So like that's the boat she chose to use that metaphor and um that's the difference she chooses to make. So she tunes in there, she gets on the ride around like healthy food and food scarcity and making sure that humans are well and babies, young children are healthily fed.
Absolutely. I got to tell you the reality for me though on this. Like I've said, I grew up in the East Texas Bible Belt in the red country, and I have a lot of people in my sphere that, you know, only watch Fox News and and only their algorithm, it looks very different than mine.
Same.
And I have struggled, like you said, during the different elections and how confident people got about that election going through. And they kind of came out of the woodworks and were much more vocal about it. And I really struggled with that. But what I have come to is I was doing that decisive thing of othering for a little bit, right? Of like, you're a bad person, you're dumb, you're ignorant, like whatever. Like it's really easy to go there. It's really easy.
It's so easy to go there because that's a low frequency emotion.
It is. And
The
it's
fear, the othering is a low frequency emotion, so it's easy to access, which is why Fox News and others like stay at that low frequency because it's like, ooh, we can keep you here in this little swirl forever.
absolutely.
Sorry, keep going. This is
No,
important to
but
share.
my whole thing is I have really done my work on creating a habit of looking at those people and saying, you're a whole person. You have whole needs. You have a meal, you have feelings, you have cares, and you deserve love. Like I'm going to love you even if you believe that.
Yep.
I'm going to care for you even if you believe that. And it's really helped me not just like see them here or there and have that quick judgmental reaction, but to like ease it and then to allow for conversations or, just not othering them and then not building this wall that I'm now creating.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And that's a journey I'm on too. It's a constant because it's not the first thing. The first thing is to say like, how in the F could you believe that? Like, are you off your rocker? But in the same way, I love that you talk about them as whole people. I don't want to be judged by one single belief or one single thing I have, and my beliefs are always evolving. So, yeah, I think that's a really important thing for us to see each other as whole. That's why I think the division is manufactured because if you can easily boil something down to one issue or boil some person down to one thing, then it's easy to dismiss them as not a whole human. But yeah, I yes to everything you said.
Yeah, you know, it's been a lot going on the last couple of months. And
It's yeah, it's only gonna probably increase, and that's why I think if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I'd like to be in a different place, I would like my inner child or my inner feeling or my energetics to feel different around the world events. I think that's what we're saying is take a moment, take a deep breath. If you need to visualize Disney World to do it, like what ride am I choosing? Where do I have control and agency? What do I care about? And the other touchstone I have is I'm really under, I've come to an appreciation for that I am a soul that is having a human experience in this lifetime. And I can't quite control all the things, obviously, around me in the world events, but I can choose to be swept away by them, or I can choose to contribute to the higher consciousness, the collective consciousness of love. And I could choose harmony, and I can choose love, and I could choose care. And if I do that, then that has a different ripple. That puts a different ripple out into the collective. So that's where I choose to focus a touchstone sometimes when it's so dizzying. But I'm not Mother Teresa. I'm not. I want to be clear. Like I'm not perfect, but it's a touchstone I have of like what is within my control, what is in my agency, my reaction, and what I put out into the world next is in my control.
yeah, I love it. Beautiful. Yeah, and it's I think too the important part of it manifesting anything, right, is like what you have to visualize the future that you want. Can you envision it? And then can you believe it? And then can you hold yourself in the energy of it? And then it can be real. But if not everyone, but if a lot of people are just shocked, upset, throwing their hands up, saying like, ugh, it's never going to get better. We're just going down the toilet as a society and like whatever, we can't get to this other side of all of this where we feel pride again, we feel one again, we feel unity, we feel, prosperity for everyone,
For
not just for a
everyone.
few. Yeah,
Yeah, we
so
can all what is it with people like why can't we? Wouldn't that be the most beautiful world if we were all so happy? Like, why is that like, why can only one group be happy at the expense of the other one? Like, can you just imagine the ultimate joy of like everyone being their most happy and fulfilled self? Like,
I can imagine it,
so
but
can I. We
yeah,
have a little gif. It's like, oh,
I know. Yeah. The problem is if you don't believe it, you can never experience it. So
yeah.
we need to share that belief, that's all.
So we are inviting our community, no matter where you're starting from, to be conscious witnesses and participants in humanity's next chapter by imagining a world where we could all feel joy and
And
safe.
and safe. And that starts with you witnessing the world as it is and not getting caught up in it as your reality and realizing that you can choose a different reality. You can choose to see it all and choose where you want to be, what ride you want to be on in this lifetime. So it's a fun process. Everything we talk about basically ties back to this whole principle. So
It
tune in
does.
for more. You just experienced another higher download. We are so grateful you joined us on this journey.
Yep. So if you're feeling that high vibe energy and want more, subscribe wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode.
And if this episode sparks something in you, we'd be over the moon if you'd share it with someone who might need this download too.
Yep. Connect with us on Instagram at Higher Downloads, where we share more behind the scenes magic and some bonus content.
You can also find full episodes, transcripts, show notes, and resources at higherdownloads.com.
Until next time, trust your downloads and keep vibrating higher.